Cycling for me has never been about the bikes. They've only ever been the prerequisite tool. I do not see just a bike race, I see riders on heroic journeys and warriors doing battle. At one point, cycling was the most popular sport in Europe because newspapers told magnificent tales about epic races and crafted the great champions into legends. But with the advent of television, cycling lost some of its mystique, and that golden age of journalism and narration has perished. So now let us try to return some romance to the beautiful sport. Let us praise and give glory to phenomenal performances to be remembered for decades to come. Let us dwell on the moments that inspire and move us. Let us chronicle the rise and fall of heroes. Let us chart these life-changing journeys, these cycling odysseys. All right, welcome back to another episode of Cycling Odysseys. I'm your host, Patrick Santino. Today, slightly late to begin this one out, but here's the last catch-up part of the women's cyclocross season to get us. It gets us up to nationals. Yep, and then I covered the last couple races in the preview. Looks like I'm gonna get everything done that I wanted to get done before Cyclocross Worlds. So I'm either really good at just making deadlines, or I skimped on something else that I was supposed to do and I can't remember. Anyways, I don't know. I'm actually pretty happy. So it's this one I think came out pretty well. You might disagree. I don't know. Maybe you'll agree. And so anyways, I hope you enjoy it. I am good. I think I got everything done, but like I don't have time to dilly-dally with the little intro here. So let's just jump in and I'll recap something later. Women's Cross Catch-Up Part 3. Regular scheduled programming with an Achilles heel? Fresh off her loss to the young Femme Van Empel of Paulshausen Bingle, Marianne Vos of Jumbo-Visma towed the line the next weekend at Rucphen with its Pinwheel of Doom. Perhaps the race perfectly fit into her training schedule. Perhaps she wanted to preview and race on the site of the Dutch Nationals that were to come in a month's time. But this week was back, the reigning world champion, Lucinda Brand, ready to start the long and epic Christmas fortnight of racing. The Rucphen course was the polar opposite to the snowy Val di Sole, pun intended. Of course, the Dutch conditions were damp in December, but all riders were in shorts. A few even rode without gloves. The course was technical beyond just the dizzying pinwheel. But it was also fast. Yes, it has been a surprise this season in both the men's and women's racing to see such drama unfold on the flatter and faster courses. Half a dozen women were still trading the lead with 2 laps to go. At points, not 2, but 3 riders would all be diving into a turn together for the lead. Luckily, too, the racing was clean, unblemished by crashes or untimely mechanicals. But on the penultimate lap, Marianne Vos, the cannibal, the goat, threw down the hammer and ripped the legs off the group. Only 2 riders could follow her relentless drive. Lucinda Brand, the world champion, and the ever-consistent Denise Betsema of Paulshausen Bingle. Vos looked to have Brand on the ropes, but Brand, the world champion, recovered and took the front of the group to dictate the pace for the final lap. Vos and Betsema looked to be following comfortably, but in the Pinwheel of Doom, Betsema, in third, was letting a gap form to the 2 ahead. Betsema relatched on to Brand and Vos, but she had revealed her hand. She was on her last legs. Brand continued to dictate the pace even into the back half of the lap, and Marianne Vos followed like a hawk, biding her time, while Betsema hung on for dear life. Finally, on a power section, Brand, with Vos following, ripped open the gap to Betsema for good. All ran across the sandpit and did not skip a beat as they remounted. It was the same at the staircase, and on the final time over the barriers. Still, Brand was on the front, and she was the first to make the final turn onto the straightaway. But Marianne Vos was still in her wheel. She had not shook her. And like the Waterloo World Cup at the beginning of the season, Marianne Vos got the better of Lucinda Brand in the sprint. So began the Christmas period, but alas, that was arguably the best race to come out of it. Marianne Vos, with eyes on jumping straight into a full road season, had a light and very limited cross calendar and did not take part in much of the fortnight of racing. The next day, all save Vos attended the Damar World Cup. Such a course is about as technical as they come, but it is also so physically demanding there can be no dark horse winner. Only the top rider on good form has a chance to win. Thus, it was no surprise to see Damar thoroughly dominated by the world champion Lucinda Brand. To a lesser extent, the same was true on the Boxing Day Dendermonde. Marianne Vos was in attendance but simply off her best and vying only for a top 5 placing. While ahead, it was Denise Betsema and the American champion Clara Hansinger chasing down the world champion Lucinda Brand with only faint hopes in their hearts. Yes, Clara Hansinger got within 4 seconds of Brand by the finish, but the final results make the race look closer than it was. Hansinger slashed a dozen seconds off her gap by foregoing a final pit change, and because Lucinda Brand set up on the final straightaway knowing she had enough of a gap to win. Still, it was a fair challenge from Hansinger, and a very good result for her. But the very next day, Hansinger was outdone by another youngster, Paul Salzen's Sven Van Empel, the champion at the Val de Soleil Snowcross. Van Empel did indeed solidly challenge Lucinda Brand, the world champion. In the very early laps, the two broke away and went toe-to-toe in a beloved cyclocross duel. Van Empel increased her stature among the peloton, and her own confidence as well. But in the final laps, Lucinda Brand, the world champion, seemed handedly capable of raising the pace to another level to put the young challenger Van Empel away and ride off to yet another victory. It was another familiar story at Leeuwenhout, where Brand bested Betsema and young Trek Lions teammate Shirin Van Rooij. It was not until New Year's Day of 2022 that Brand finally looked vulnerable again, and the challenger was relatively unexpected. On her boss's home course and training facility, and at his self-titled race in Bâle, Lucinda Brand had a full challenge on her hands at the GP Sven Nys. The course was filthy muddy, slow, and almost monotonous, besides that the technicality of every challenge was greatly increased, and everyone's balance was at a very high premium this day. Lucinda Brand's toughest competition came not from Marianne Vos, nor Denise Betsema, nor Sven Van Empel, nor Clara Hansinger, but instead from a certain Celine del Carmen Alvarado of Alpecin Phoenix. Alvarado, the rider who was world champion the year before Lucinda Brand, had been having a mysterious and alarmingly subpar season. Rumors of health problems or disruptions to recovery were swirling all season, but it did not seem anything was assuredly pinpointed. And on this day, in the mud pits of Sven Nys's course in Bâle, none of the plaguing injuries mattered, for Celine del Carmen Alvarado, still wearing the Dutch champion's jersey, was flying high once more, finally finding or regaining her best form at last, perhaps late in the season, but perhaps just in time for the World Championships at the end of the month. It was a great course, but the mud was so heavy. It was not only a technical nightmare to stay upright, it required the biggest of lungs and strongest of legs to pump through such grisly mud. And it was a great duel, because halfway through the race, Lucinda Brand, the world champion, looked to have cracked it open early, as we had seen so often all season. But Celine del Carmen Alvarado fought on. Alvarado clawed herself back to begin the final lap on Brand's wheel. Deep into that last lap, the two riders battled, trading off and fighting for the lead. The race came down and was decided on the crux of the course, the two biggest hills on course that came in quick succession with only a descent in between. It was on the second hill that was entirely a run-up that Brand broke open the lead to put away the unexpectedly tough challenge from Celine del Carmen Alvarado. Alvarado did not win, but after such a season, such a performance was victory in itself, for only Marianne Vos, the GOAT, had been able to pressure Lucinda Brand harder this season. The last race of the Christmas period was the Holst World Cup, and it was a similar case where the results made the race seem closer than it was. But Lucinda Brand, the world champion, once again actually had the race relatively under control. And then Brand thoroughly dominated the Harentels course to a point well beyond boredom for the viewers. In fact, I did not even finish watching this one. But this brings us to the bookend of the report, back to Rucphen, and the Dutch nationals. Yes, it was that same Rucphen course at the beginning of the Christmas period where came Brand's only Christmas loss at the hands, or better sprinting legs, of Marianne Vos, the GOAT. For decades, there has been limited international parity in the men's cyclocross that is so often dominated by the Belgians. Well, on the women's side, the Dutch domination of recent years has been even more pronounced than the Belgian men's, if you could believe it. It really is, at this point, the cliche case that to win the Dutch nationals is about as good as winning the world title. Allow me to run through the front starting row of the Dutch national championships at Rucphen. Ever consistent Denise Betsema, the young Puck Peters, the young Fem Van Empel, Annemarie Wurst, second at Worlds last year, Lucinda Brand, the world champion, and Marianne Vos, the GOAT. It can even be noted, Celine Del Carmen Alvarado, the 2020 world champion, only had a second row call-up in such company. The race immediately began with the duel Rucphen ended with last time. Lucinda Brand pushing the pace, with Marianne Vos coolly following behind again, with a gap to the rest of the chasers before half a lap into the race. It was Mighty Ace-esque. And what was also Mighty Ace-esque was when Brand and Vos strategically sat up on the final straightaway to metaphorically stare each other down and save some powder for more furious salvos deeper into the race. This let-up allowed the pack of chasers to regroup with them and form a solid 8 or 9 rider peloton. This 2 handfuls of riders then proceeded to stick together for most of the second lap, with Marianne Vos on the front dictating the pace. But through the sandpit, Marianne Vos on the front broke open a little gap. Lucinda Brand was too far back to close it up right away. Vos capitalized and put the pedal to the metal. She flew up the next staircase and perfectly nailed the set of barriers. Behind, the chasing group containing Lucinda Brand all dismounted from the barriers, but at the front of the group, Fem Van Empel botched her remount and caused Lucinda Brand behind to drop her bike on her own remount. A small mistake that cost only a few seconds, but that was the race. Vos's 5 or 7 second gap grew to 10 or 12, and that was all the GOAT needed. She was on good form. She time trialed away solo to the victory and her 7th Dutch national title. Yet, it must be noted, despite Marianne Vos's comfortable victory, Lucinda Brand did indeed chase her down and shrank the gap that had ballooned since the technical mistake on the second lap. Lucinda Brand did not win the Dutch Nationals, but she looked every bit primed to defend her world title in a few weeks' time. On their best days this season, riders have challenged and finished within a shout of Lucinda Brand, but Marianne Vos is the only one to have gotten the better of her since November. Yes, the World Championships really are Lucinda Brand's to lose, but can the cannibal, Marianne Vos, play the spoiler? So that was the got us up to nationals. The last stuff that I was implying there about Marianne Vos and Lucinda Brand and where they stand, that had to be updated after the last couple of weeks. So within the next 24 hours, the women's preview should be going out. So you can hear my latest final pre-race thoughts there. But with that, look out for more. I got an exciting next one coming out. Maybe I'll even put it out directly after this one, but we'll see. All right, so follow me on Twitter, Cycling Odysseys. Find the blog post, cyclingodysseys.com. Subscribe to YouTube, the podcast app, whatever you're using, and leave 5-star reviews, leave comments. Thank you for listening, everybody. Vive la cyclisme.